Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're cutting through the complexity of, well, turning a piece of rural property into a predictable revenue stream.
Mm,
We're looking at creating a really meticulous step-by-step checklist for any landowner out there who's thinking about leasing their land for hunting access.
that's right. And for a lot of people, this land isn't just an asset, it's a legacy. But it's also a controlled source of income that's just waiting to be optimized.
But the process itself, it's rigorous, right? It's not as simple as just putting a sign up.
Not at all. It demands a ton of precision. I mean, you're dealing with access, liability, long-term contracts. It's serious business.
So our mission today is to just extract those essential non-negotiable steps from the sources. We're looking at the pitfalls, the requirements, even surprising things like specific liability coverage details.
Exactly. The goal is that you, the listener, are completely prepared to navigate this whole process. Think of this as the prep work before you even think about listing the property.
Okay, but before we go any further, we have to get the big caveat out of the way.
The crucial one, it's in all of our source material, and it's so important. This deep dive is about best practices. It's about the process. It is not legal advice.
Right?
When you're dealing with contracts, with liability, with land use, you absolutely must talk to a qualified attorney. This is just the checklist to get you ready for that conversation.
Foundation laid. So let's jump in at the very beginning, defining the scope. Before you even talk to a potential hunter, the landowner has to get their own expectations straight.
Completely.
So what's the real difference between defining your goals versus your red lines?
Well, the goals. The goals really determine the why. What's the overall intention here? Is your number one goal just maximizing revenue?
Okay.
Or is it maybe habitat improvement, which means, the money is actually secondary to making sure the lessee is following your management plan? Because it's your land, that's step one. What do you prioritize?
And once that's clear, then you get into the nitty-gritty of the lease type itself.
Yeah, and you have to get incredibly specific. You need to decide on the impact level you're okay with. Is this for, say, specific game only, whitetail and turkey, for example?
Or is it just any legal game is fair game?
Exactly. And we see a lot of bow-only leases now. They're getting more and more common, especially in areas that are, a bit more populated.
And that decision impacts everything, doesn't it? The price, the liability.
Everything. A rifle lease implies a whole different level of potential risk, and it might need very different language in the contract than a strict archery lease would.
Okay, let's talk about those boundaries. The sources make a really big deal about differentiating between just general rules and these red line issues. These red lines are the deal breakers, right? The things that if they happen, the relationship is just over.
It's over instantly. It's the requirement that fundamentally protects the landowner's main reason for owning the land in the first place.
Like what? Give me an example.
Okay, so take a landowner who relies on farming income. A red line for them might be an absolute zero-tolerance ban on ATVs in the fields until every last crop is harvested. That protects their livelihood.
That makes perfect sense.
Another one we see a lot is no food plots. The landowner might be against planting them because it messes with their own plans for, say, native vegetation.
And this is where it gets really interesting. Some landowners are now asking lessees to do more than just pay rent. They're requiring them to actually help manage the land.
Exactly. And that's the jump from a simple recreational lease to a true land management partnership.
So you're not just letting someone hunt. You're saying, you need to help me manage the deer population.
Right. You have to meet certain due quotas. You can't just be focused on, filling your one buck tag for the year. You are asking them to invest real time and effort into improving your asset.
So what does that do? I mean, if you're asking for that premium effort, does that command a premium price? And how on earth do you enforce it?
Oh, it absolutely should demand a higher price. No question. The lessee is essentially performing a land management service for you.
And the enforcement part.
That's where the contract has to be airtight. It needs to spell out what kind of proof is required. Photographic evidence of harvested does, maybe. Or official DNR reporting.
You can even have yearly meetings to go over the data.
You could. And if those benchmarks aren't met, well, that's your red line breach. It has to be that cut and dry. Or the whole partnership idea just falls apart.
Okay, so those are the absolute deal breakers. What about the other restrictions, the ones that are more like house rules?
Yeah, these are the rules that just maintain order. Things like limiting how many hunters can be on the property at one time.
Or restricting camping to a specific spot.
Exactly. Or maybe no camping at all during fire season. Things that are important for safety and order, but maybe don't end the lease on the spot if they're broken once.
When you lay all this out, I mean, the detail in the red lines, the restrictions, making sure it's all legally sound, that sounds like a massive amount of work for one person.
It is. It really is. And the source material points out this is where getting some outside help can be really efficient. A lot of landowners use specialized listing services, and the agents often help structure this entire agreement before it ever sees the light of day.
Before we get to the marketing side, let's just close the loop on this first phase. Listing potential encumbrances. Why is it so vital to list out all the potential dangers or, inconveniences?
This is all about disclosure. It's a huge protective measure for the landowner. It does two things. First, you're telling the lessee everything they need to watch out for old wells, maybe a seasonal flood zone, that kind of thing.
Okay, so it's about transparency.
It is. But second, and this is maybe more important, it protects the landowner from future claims.
Can you give us an example, like a hidden problem that could blow up later if it's not disclosed?
Oh, absolutely. Imagine there's utility right-of-way, a power line or a pipeline that cuts through the property. You might have maintenance crews show up, unannounced, right in the middle of the prime hunting season. If you didn't disclose that, the lessee could argue their hunt was ruined. They could claim misrepresentation.
But if you disclose it up front,
Then they can't claim they didn't know. They've accepted that risk. It's pure risk mitigation.
okay, so let's unpack this next stage. If getting the rules right is step one, then managing the marketing and the paperwork, that's step two.
And it can feel like a full-time job.
Especially if you've just come up with 10 strict red lines and 5 different encumbrances. The thought of vetting all those applicants yourself, it's a lot.
It is. And
Yeah.
that complexity, that time commitment, is exactly why so many landowners choose to use these specialized third-party networks.
Like Base Camp Leasing, which comes up a lot in the sources.
Right. For people who just want to avoid the hassle of marketing, of finding hunters, of doing that deep vetting, a service like that is presented as a very streamlined option.
So what does a dedicated leasing agent actually do? Is it more than just posting an ad?
Oh, much more. They're basically managing the whole process for you, from getting the property enrolled all the way to the contract. They handle the marketing, the contracts, the initial insurance steps. It takes a huge load off the landowner.
And the network itself.
Yep.
What's the real advantage of using a dedicated hunting network versus, I don't know, just putting it on a general property website?
The advantage is access to viable lessees. That's the key word. These networks, they have a huge pool of hunters who are already members.
So they're already sort of pre-vetted.
In a way, yes. They understand how hunting leases work. They're serious about long-term commitments. It just hugely increases your odds of finding a good, stable relationship instead of just dealing with, opportunistic short-term guys.
Okay, let me challenge that a little.
Yeah.
If you, as the landowner, have invested all this time in creating these super detailed management plans and red lines, don't you lose some control by handing it over to an agent?
That's a great question.
How do you make sure the agent cares as much about your herd management goals as they do about just closing the deal?
That comes down to communication right up front. When you enroll with any service, you have to be crystal clear that those red lines, especially the management ones, are non-negotiable. They have to be advertised in the listing.
So a good agent should be screening for that.
A reputable agent will. They'll be screening applicants based on their ability to meet your specific goals, not just their ability to write a check.
Speaking of checks, let's talk about the money. How does a landowner know they're getting a fair market value?
Well, this is another key service those agents provide, a fair market value estimate. They pride themselves on getting premium prices because they have the data.
So it's not just a guess.
Not at all. It's
Yeah.
based on internal data from comparable properties. They factor in the acreage, sure, but also the quality of the habitat, the access, the documented management history, all of it. A premium property commands a premium price.
So it gives the landowner confidence they're not leaving money on the table.
Exactly. And that's important, especially if you're demanding that they help you manage the place.
So once the value is set, the lessee is found, a deposit is paid. We're at the final paperwork.
Right. The last logistical step is signing that lease agreement. The landowner gets the contract, they read every word, and they make sure all those special conditions are in there. And if you've used a service, you call your agent with any last-minute questions before you sign.
Okay, we've defined the scope, we've set the rules, we've signed the paper. Now for what is, arguably the most important stage of all.
The final, crucial step, liability insurance.
Right. This is what provides the peace of mind.
For everyone. And hunting is statistically way safer than most people think. It really is. But insurance is non-negotiable for that rare 1 in a million time that something goes wrong. It's the protective shield over the whole deal.
$5 million. That's the number that keeps popping up in the sources. Why so high? What kind of liability are we even talking about?
It's funny, it's rarely a firearms accident. More often, it has to do with infrastructure or access.
Like what?
A really common scenario is a hunter falling out of a tree stand. Maybe a stand the landowner left up and didn't disclose was, potentially unsafe. Or it could be a fire started by a vehicle or some camping gear. $5 million is a number that ensures you're protected against a truly catastrophic claim. It's a deep buffer for both sides.
And there are specialized companies for this, right? The American Hunting Lease Association, the AHLA, gets mentioned a lot. What do these specialized providers offer that, say, my regular landowner's policy might miss?
It's fascinating how tailored their services are. They offer things like next-day coverage, which is huge if you're trying to get a lease done quickly.
And they advertise zero-deductible policies.
Which is a massive benefit. It means you have no out-of-pocket costs before the coverage kicks in. For a landowner, that's a big deal.
And it's not just the money, is it? They provide tools to actually reduce the risk.
Yes, exactly. They're focused on prevention. The AHLA, for instance, they include a custom attorney-approved waiver that just plugs right into your lease. They give you a guide on how to make your property safer. They even send you no trespassing signs.
So they help you establish those clear legal
They
boundaries.
do. And in this day and age, speed matters. These specialized providers, they immediately email or upload that insurance certificate to your account,
Instant proof of coverage.
which you have to have before anyone sets foot on that land. It's non-negotiable.
So if we pull this all together, this whole deep dive, we've gone from the very subjective stuff, like a landowner's personal goals, all the way to the very objective technical processes, establishing hard rules, listing every possible risk, using professional networks, and then wrapping the whole thing in this blanket of specialized liability insurance.
It is a rigorous process, but every step is there to minimize risk and maximize the potential for a good outcome.
And it all connects back to that idea you mentioned, the management partnership. The whole structure is designed to find and keep a good long-term relationship.
It is. Which brings up a really important question for you, the landowner, to think about. How do you balance it all?
Balance what specifically?
The balance between needing those strict, detailed restrictions to protect your property mandating herd management, dictating where stands can go, and ensuring the lessee still feels invested and independent enough to want to stay for the long haul.
That's the tipping point, isn't it?
It's the delicate tipping point. When does necessary control become micromanagement that just frustrates a really good partner and drives them away?
And the long-term profitability of that lease might hang entirely on getting that balance right.
It really does. A great partner is worth more than a few extra bucks, and a lease that's too strict, well, it often just leads to high turnover.
The profound thought to mull over. We'd encourage you to think about how these principles, clear goals, hard boundaries, solid protection, can apply to any kind of access agreement you might encounter. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.